Hello and welcome to Lauren Loves Color. This is Lauren. I am coming to you today with probably the most exciting flip and review that I've ever done. I will be doing a flip through and review of Color Questopia's newest book, Flowers and Gardens Color by Number. I have the black background version, which of course is my favorite type of version for Color Questopia. And what is so special and so awesome about this book, and thank you to Color Questopia for sending this to me, is that I actually got to collaborate with them, not on just the contents of the book inside, that was done by Color Questopia, but what I got to collaborate with them on was their new color palette. I have been messaging and communicating back and forth with Color Questopia for probably about a month now. They have sent me some coloring books for review, and as a part of that review, I always feel like it is my duty and pleasure, honestly, to provide feedback to the publisher, positive or constructive criticism about their books, just to let them know about my personal experience as a consumer and what the experience that I hear from you guys, and because I feel like that feedback can always make somebody better. And what is so wonderful and so amazing about Color Questopia is how open they are to feedback from their consumers. And so I want to show you what's led to the change in this book and what I got to collaborate on. And I just want to share that experience with you guys, and then show this beautiful book as well. So let's take a stroll through history to kind of where we are today. If you have been working with Color Questopia for a long time, you probably remember their old style books. And I'm going to show you, this is the Chibi Girls coloring book, Color by Number. Their books used to just simply be the white backgrounds, the white lines. Everybody knows, probably Lisa from Lisa's Coloring Corner made this somewhat famous, to start filling in the lines with glitter gel pen to create kind of a fun and interesting effect for coloring pages. So we all did that. We all colored in silver or metallic gel pen, did that, and it was a fun kind of stained glass look and appearance. They always had in each of their books a color key that was unique to that particular book. That was one thing I think that was hard for a lot of people, was that they couldn't really create a standardized list of colors because every book to every book was different. Also on the inside, they did have numbers listed, but the numbers simply went from 1 to whatever. And it was nice that they had only the colors for that picture, but black wasn't always number 1, light pink wasn't always number 5. And so as you not only went from page to page to book, the numbers did change. So from that, they then adapted. This was their next improvement that they made from feedback that they got from consumers like you, is they came out with the black background versions of their books. When they did that, they had kind of their standard version that you still to this day can continue to buy, but they also did a version where all of those lines were already filled in. They did also release their entire color palette. It was a list of 50 colors. They listed it on the back of the book, and so then that way, if you wanted to label your markers, you could. You had the ability to go in and to label your markers 1 through 50 and ensure that you have a consistent color palette. Now, there was a lot of feedback about this. People seemed to love the black background versions of the books, but didn't like that all 50 colors were consistently listed on every single page. And obviously not all 50 colors were used in the page itself. This, I will say, was probably the time that I slowed down on buying Color Questopia books for that reason. I found it really hard to then go in and to match my colors because I didn't know how many greens or browns or anything were in there, and I like to choose kind of random different markers. And if I knew there was only one green color, I didn't have to work so hard at trying to figure out which shade of green. I just knew there was one green and I could just pick any green that I wanted and color it and move on. When all 50 colors were listed, it made it a little harder for me to color match. And I slowed down a little bit, honestly, with my coloring in some of these books. So they received a lot of feedback about these books when these came out. They then recently, actually, I think in the past couple of months, made a really, really big and positive change. This is their large print Color by Number black background. They've consistently kept the black background. They consistently kept the 50 colors listed on the back. However, they did go back to listing only the colors that you needed in the image that you were coloring. They also kept the standard number system that they had created on the back of the book to make it much easier that if you had your markers labeled, that you could keep those consistent colors. When they made this change, as you guys can tell, this is the book that I actually completed because I loved that I could easily go back and say, okay, well, I know that there's only one red in this image, so I only have to worry about one red. This was the first set of books. I received this one in the You Are Loved book from Color Questopia for review. And one of the things that I told them was absolutely love the changes that they made to the books. I absolutely love the contents of the books, but I made a couple of suggestions. One of the suggestions that I made to them was to condense this palette of colors. There are a lot of colors in here that are very similar. There are also some colors in here that are almost impossible to match. When I think about my marker sets and I look at all of the oranges, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different oranges, I don't have a single marker set. Even my Ohuhu markers that have 5 different oranges, 5 different yellows, 5 different greens. And so I made the suggestion to condense the color palette to something that was a little bit more, I guess, consistent with what you would find in the marker sets that are being used. Hazel, who is the publisher, who kind of represents the publisher on social media, kind of asked me for a recommendation. She said, if you could have your wish list color key, what would you actually use? What color palettes do you like that inspire you? What color by number palettes do you enjoy working with the most? And then I was instantly intrigued. So I started sending pictures, started sending ideas, started having kind of a series of conversations with Hazel over about, I guess, maybe a 3-week period of time, 3 or 4 week period of time. They even cared about this so much that they held off on releasing some of their books until we could work on finalizing the color key and make sure that it was something that we were happy with. So this is what we reached to. Obviously, a substantially less, cut down more than half of the colors that were in there. And this is the color key that we came up with and that we developed. So what I did for Hazel was that I listed out all of the colors that I thought should be included in the color palette, but then we even had to go back in and say, okay, so if we're going to say we want a brown and a dark brown, what shades of color do you want? A lot of these are from the Color Questopia palette. We just narrowed them down to shades that seem to be a little bit more consistent and easy to find. But some of them are not, and some of them are colors like this orange red was not a color that was in their color palette, so that was a color and shade that we had to choose and determine which colors that we wanted. We also realized that a lot of these colors, when you pick them in a digital format, once they're printed on the Color Questopia book, they actually come out much darker. So for example, this violet color, she kept sending me violet color, and I kept telling her that's not the violet that we picked, but as we talked about it, we realized that once it's actually printed on the Amazon, standard paper for the covers, that it actually prints differently. So we had to also take that into consideration. What was really important to me were a few things. And honestly, what I kept in mind is what makes the coloring experience fun and exciting for me and what I hear other creators talk about. One of the things that I knew is I wanted to look at this from a different angle. Instead of looking at just a color palette and just deciding, from here what colors that I liked, I wanted to think about the marker sets that I had. I know that most of you guys color with a pretty standard set of markers. The ones that I kept in mind most, that I hear mentioned most, are CaliArt, Ohuhu, the Teotree markers, and Bic Intensity markers. I wanted to also leave it open to those people who colored with Bic Intensities, who like to color with permanent markers. And so I wanted to keep something that I could confidently say at the end of the day I had a match for those markers. And so that's what I kept in mind as we went through this. We also had a very large discussion about skin tone. Color Questopia is very aware of the news in the modern age and the challenges and kind of the negative light that it looks on color by number publishers when you identify a skin tone, especially when that skin tone is consistently identified with a Caucasian skin tone like peach, which is commonly used in a lot of color by number books. It's not just Color Questopia, but in a lot of color by number books, peach is consistently used as a skin tone. And we know that all people come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. It was really important that Color Questopia identify a way to keep a skin tone in a way that was inclusive of all skin tone colors, of all sizes and shapes of people. And so they developed this, and I told them that this was just an absolutely excellent idea. So moving forward, if there are any books, and I'm sure there will be moving forward, there will will be some books that have people in them, is that you will see an asterisk instead of a number. And what that means is that you can use any skin tone color that you want to. Anything that inspires you, you can make your characters look like you, somebody you know, you can make them diverse. You will use any flesh tone in their books moving forward. It's not an identified color, it's not a called out color, it is whatever you want it to be. I thought that was just an absolutely necessary and amazing addition. Other than this palette, everything to me also made sense. We talked about the sizes of the swatches, and I don't know about you, but trying to color match these teeny tiny little squares here can be difficult. Trying to just use these very, very small little squares was a little bit hard. And so I told them, let's make the color swatches as large as we can, because when I'm holding up swatches of color and in order to match, I want to be able to see the differences. And what wasn't so easy to me was like seeing the difference between light yellow and yellow. And what you can see here now that the swatches are much bigger, and I liked the paint splatter. So they decided to keep with that recommendation and go with there. So now you can definitely see a difference between the light yellow and the yellow. And you can see difference between the shades of some of the different colors to make it a little bit easier. I really like this color palette. It's pretty standard. I was able to match all of my marker sets to these images here, and it was important for me to keep a couple of what I would say like unique but fun colors that I don't see in every color palette, but that I find in marker sets that are highly underutilized. So there were a few colors here that stood out to me as I was helping them out. So most of the colors I kept to a pretty condensed amount. Like I know reds and oranges are pretty rare, so I kept those pretty small. But orange red is a color that is often included. This orange red is almost more like a terracotta color. It's almost an orangey brownish red, but you can also choose, it would be totally fine to choose something a little bit brighter, and you'll see on my marker matches that I actually have some brighter orange red colors identified, and you can use either one in whatever picture you're using. Tan and peach are also two pretty common colors in many of the color by number books. So I left those there. I kept 3 yellows. Golden yellow was one color I really wanted to keep because a lot of my marker sets I found come with golden yellow, and I don't use them in all of my color by number books. And I feel like it's a little underutilized. Same thing with light yellow, but golden yellow was one I definitely wanted to keep. Your standard greens here usually have 3. Aqua green was one I really advocated for as well, because I feel like that's a really fun color. We all have shades of like mint and teal and, aqua and stuff like that. And so this aqua green I thought was just beautiful. And I thought kind of helps to utilize some of those aqua colors that we have so commonly in our books, but never, or in our marker sets, but never utilize all that often. The blues, I kept 3 blues. I wanted to make sure that dark blue really was kind of almost a true blue, because sometimes when you get into the darker blues, especially like into the navies, it starts to look black. So you have to be really careful with that. So that's why I chose the 3 standard blues. The 2 purples, the lilac and the violet, one thing that's always really interesting is the names lilac and violet are actually very confusing, because sometimes you'll see these swapped and you'll see violet be this kind of lighter purple and lilac be kind of more of this darker purple. But when I would Google things and look online, this was more consistent with what the color names were, these 2 shades here. I then chose a pretty standard pink, almost like what I think of as a pig pink, because this is a really common color that comes in markers. And then lastly, I chose a vivid pink. This is almost that magenta color that I've almost always consistently had some struggle with color matching. However, there are quite a few marker sets that do include it now, as well as when I went through my marker sets, I always found something that was a pop of pink. I'm a girly girl and I love kind of, just pink and fun colors, something bright. And so this vivid pink was something that I really enjoyed. And it's actually one of very popular publisher that I review a lot as well, uses a lot of pinks in their books, and I really enjoy that. And I don't think we use a lot of like hot pinks, fuchsia pinks and things like that. And so they had a hot pink color, Questopia did, in their standard book. It was number 31 here, and I just felt like it was nice to have something different, a little pop of pink to, I don't know, just have something that's kind of fun and exciting. So that is how we developed the color key. And part of trying to also talk to Hazel about that I wanted the swatches as big as possible is that we have just a limited real estate on the back of the book. So what they actually did is they removed this information here that talks about the corresponding colors to the numbers in the book. We read through this. It also kind of, because it's a little redundant, this information is also included in the front of the book. So this was actually taken out so that you had more space for your swatches so that you could have an easier time seeing the colors. So that is how we developed this book. I did create a color chart here, and I'm going to scroll in a little bit. These are some of my swatches that I did of my different markers, and you're more than welcome to just pause the video and to take a picture. However, in the description box below, I will have a link to my link tree. It has a lot of different links there for me, like Amazon wish list and stuff like that. However, there is one that says Color Questopia color chart. If you click on that, it will take you directly to here, which is a Google Docs or Google Sheets file, and you will see all of my colors listed here. And so what I have is just kind of, I went in and just swatched out all of the colors that I chose. I did practice inside the book for my Ohuhus and my Cali Arts. For my Tau Trees and Bic Intensities, I didn't end up coloring images with those markers inside of the book, as you'll see, but I felt like, because I felt so confident about these two sets of colors, that I could match these very easily. And Bic Intensities only have 36 colors, so you're somewhat limited in regards to the color palette that you can use there. I will tell you that on some of the Ohuhus, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but they're harder to match for me than some other things. Their blues are a little funky, and their oranges are a little funny as well. So, but I think I did find really good color matches for all of them. And I've released this color chart, I think twice now on Instagram, and I'm gonna hold from trying to push anything through again until this video is out, because it's possible that I could tweak some of this. I had some of you respond and just tell me, hey, I don't have a full 200 set of Ohuhus, or I don't have the 120 Cali Arts. Can you find matches in some smaller marker sets? So I did do that. So for my Cali Arts, I have a 100 set and then a 120 brush. So I have first what's listed on the left and second what's listed on the right. So some of these colors matched in both sets, and I tried to do that as much as possible. But if I felt like maybe there was a better color match or there were inconsistent colors between the two, I would list this is like the 100 Cali Arts, this is the 120 on this side. And what was actually kind of funny was that some of these colors like weren't in the other set. You would think that in the 120 set, it would include all of the 100 plus 20 additional markers, but that's not actually how it works. And it was the same way with Cali Arts and Ohuhus. So you will definitely see that there was some color variation there, but you should be able to, if you have a smaller set or a larger set, match most of these markers. And then the Tau Tree only come in 101 colors, so that was really easy. And the Bic Intensity, if you really have to have the 36 set in order to be able to match all of the colors there. You will see that with the orange red for Cali Art and Ohuhu, I was very easily able to find that kind of almost more browny orange red. In case you can kind of see that there. And then for the Tau Tree and the Bic Intensity, I did go a little bit more of kind of that brighter orange red color. But like I said, either way works. It doesn't have to be exact. But for those of you who do like to have something more exact or just have some recommendations, I did want to create this for you just to make it a little bit easier. And I want to do this for some of the other publishers that I have consistent colors, consistent color palettes, like Such and Such Diva and Sun Life Drawing and things like that. I will create some charts like this, but I really wanted to do this for Color Questopia, especially with the new color palette that they have. So let's that's enough about the color key itself. If I have not talked you to death about the color key, let's go ahead and take a look at the book. I'm going to awkwardly move my light just so you can have it a little bit brighter and see maybe a little bit better. This is, like I said, they plan on using the same color palette for their books moving forward. And let me know in the comments below how you like it. Do you think it's an improvement? And are you excited? This very first book is Flowers and Gardens. I think they actually came out with, like, maybe just a little while ago, a brand new book about sugar skulls, which looks really exciting too. But this one is really kind of perfect for the spring. So this lists all of their color palette tips. This is again just a little more information about color by number, and then just talks a little bit about their social media. And then this is where we get started. So this is the new color palette listed on the left-hand side and my very first image that I completed on the right-hand side. This was completed with my Cali Art markers. I did make a couple of changes to the colors, specifically the browns. This was kind of my brown and then my dark brown. I changed that a little bit because this dark brown almost looks black. And so that's why I really have to kind of test this to the paper itself just to make sure I'm happy with the colors. I was happy with all of the other colors. And look at that pink. Doesn't that just pop? Like, I just think that looks amazing. I did want to also take my white gel pen and start to kind of zhuzh this up a little bit, but I refrained from doing that because I do want you to see the true colors on the papers and just to see how beautiful it ends up turning out. So all of these are going to be themed like gardens. Some of them have little houses. And this just looks like a peaceful and quaint little color by number book. And like I said, I was going to use my towel tree and my Bic intensities, but I was like, man, it's going to drain my greens. There's a lot of green, as you can imagine, just because of the amount of grass in this book. One thing I do like, though, was, you know, we used to always have this like kind of running joke about Color Questopia using all of our blues in the sky. But if you see, a lot of these images carry up pretty far into the book. And number 18 is like the light blue color for the sky. So it's not as much anymore. And whoever did the illustrations in this book uses a lot of peach and kind of light purple in the clouds, kind of create this like sunsetty look. So it's actually very, very nice. So less blues, but probably a lot more green that you're using in this book. I love this one that kind of has the sun in the middle. It's really pretty. So again, these books are so just relaxing and easy to color. I really, really enjoy them. Yes, you'll see many of the greens here. This is the second image that I colored, and I picked it because it had a lot of colors here, but you'll see like there's just a lot of green in here too. So this was this one I colored with my Ohuhu markers, and I think it just looks beautiful. I mean, don't you want to be there right now? I think that looks stunning. So these were my Ohuhu markers that I used. So those are the two images that I have completed. I love this little kind of cottage. I can't wait to see the Sugar Skulls book because I think too that's going to be amazing with all of the new colors. And also they did also make the correction where any of their pages that are horizontal are grouped together so that you have some consistency when you're flipping through. So like me, who's kind of a color tuber, you don't have to worry about flipping your book back and forth, which I think Lisa from Lisa's Colored Corner is going to be so elated about that. And then these are just the extra bonus images at the back of the book, which they always do. So this is from You Are Loved. This is that large print book that I completed. There's a little flower basket. Country Farm Scenes, which is one of their older books that they converted to black backgrounds, and then Camping black backgrounds. It's also really nice. And Wonderful Winter. And as always, there will leave us a review page on Amazon. They do have a couple of extra just blank sheets of paper too, so you can test out additional colors and find something that suits you. So that's all that I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this. I know this was just an super exciting project for me to work on. And again, I thank Color Questopia for giving me the opportunity to collaborate with them. This was really fun and exciting for me. And as a really, someone who strongly loves and embraces color by number, this was an absolute dream for me to collaborate on a project that's not only going to continue in this book, but that's going to continue in books further. So I hope you all have a great rest of the week. I look forward to seeing you again soon, and we'll talk later. Bye.